Hey everybody, from Beantown to your town. This is the Beantown Beatdown, along with Matthew Burris. That's me, and of course my producer and friend Gabriel.
Gabe Shamas here, coming at you also from Beantown.
That's right. A lot of fights went down this past week, and also last weekend in combat sports. So let's get to it. First off, UFC Fight Night last Saturday. Mauricio Shogun Hua was knocked out by Ovin St. Perux. Sorry, it's French. I can't pronounce French very well. But, it was a good fight. Of course, it happened in round one, 4 minutes and 26 seconds. And some people are actually now starting to write off Mauricio Shogun Hua. Shogun is a legend, a former Pride and UFC champion. Also, ironically, that same night, Bernard Hopkins had his boxing match, and he lost a 12-round unanimous decision. Of course, people have said that Bernard Hopkins has showed his age before. He's old now, he's getting washed up, but as usual, he has come back. So I'm not ready to push the panic button on both Hopkins or Shogun yet. I say let's give it at least one more fight, and then we can judge whether or not it's time for those fighters to hang up the gloves. And speaking of boxing, Wednesday night I saw Golden Boy Promotions fight at in Indigo, California. And here are the results. Taishan Dong, who is a Chinese heavyweight, had his second fight and won by knockout. And he looks like a good heavyweight, very tall. Hasn't had an amateur background. He just started out. Well, he has an MMA background. He started doing mixed martial arts, though I never heard of him in that world. But now he's focusing on boxing, being trained by Buddy McGirt, a legendary fighter and trainer as well. So be on the lookout. He could be the thing that gives the heavyweight division in boxing a good old shot in the arm. Also on that card, one fighter that I've been keeping my eye on is Diego De La Hoya. He is the cousin of Oscar De La Hoya and fights under the promotion. Diego won his fight. Won by fourth round TKO. The ref stopped the fight, and Diego really has been getting better at his fights. He's a young featherweight prospect. Seeing him fight, he's excellent. If he keeps going the way he's going, he's definitely going to get a title shot for sure. I know all you haters are probably out there now saying, "Oh, he's not being challenged." His uncle is, his cousin Oscar is protecting him. Let me tell you something. That guy, he's been in some tough fights. His last fight was pretty tough, and this fight right here was, not as tough, but still pretty good. And hopefully he can keep working his way to a title shot.
I was going to ask you about that. Would you say that name recognition and things like that, family status, does that play a role in the fight world?
I think it does. Of course, you look at the Mayweather family.
Right.
You look at the De La Hoya family, and the Gracies, of course, in mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. So it does kind of. It kind of gets their foot in the door, but at the end of the day, they got to go out there, they got to kick ass, and earn their pay.
Right, that makes sense.
You got to earn your keep.
Yep.
And in the third match, the co-main event, Julian Ramirez stopped Pedro Melo. After round 4, another featherweight fight, another good rising featherweight, proves his record to 13-0. Don't know much about him, but after seeing him fight, I was very impressed. And another guy that will probably get a title shot as well. And that's all I can say about that. Also in the main event, another featherweight belt. Wow, the featherweights really did take It was a featherweight night that night. Joseph Diaz won his fight. Joseph Diaz beat Roberto Castanedia. He stopped him after 4 rounds in the featherweight bout. And Joseph Diaz Jr., good fighter out of California, proves his record to 13-0 as well. It's nice to see the featherweights get a shine, even though there was like only one heavyweight fight on there. In fact, one thing I learned from my years of watching boxing is that the lighter weight divisions are much better. They don't gas out. It's a faster, quicker pace out there. Whereas the heavyweights in boxing, they get tired after 8 rounds. After 8 rounds, they start sucking wind. Because they're so heavy and stuff. So good night for Golden Boy Promotions. Good night of fights. Hope their next fight is in December. So be on the lookout for that. And now we're going to break down the card for tonight's fight. Bellator MMA, Tito Ortiz versus Stephan Bonner. That should be a good MMA fight right there. Definitely I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to the undercard here. I'm looking at the card right now. And this is the last Bellator until the new year. I don't know when in the new year they're gonna start up again. The season, but I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to a good night of fights. First fight on the undercard, Mike Richmond versus Nam Phan. Nam Phan, I think I've seen him in the Elite XC and all other promotions. He's 20-13. Mike Richmond, 17-5. This fight is at bantamweight. No doubt that winner of this fight could possibly make it to the top 10, top 5 in the bantamweight division in Bellator. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Mike Richmond wins this fight. And second fight of the night is Joe Schilling going from the world of Glory Kickboxing into the world of MMA against Melvin Manhoef, kickboxing and MMA fighter. Melvin Manhoef's last fight, he won by knockout. So, still explosive fighter, and he's going up against another explosive fighter against Joe Schilling. Now, Joe Schilling, of course, is 1-3 in mixed martial arts. I gotta say, if he loses this fight, I think he should just go straight to kickboxing. He should just stick with kickboxing because, because it's not easy, going from kickboxing to MMA. Melvin Manhoef has kind of made that transition, but he has struggled a bit at times. But this Joe Schilling guy, I've seen him in Glory. He's a good knockout artist, but if he loses this fight against Melvin Manhoef in Bellator here, I think he should just stick to kickboxing. I don't have a prediction for this fight. Too hard to tell, but I can predict one thing: somebody's gonna get knocked the fuck out in this fight. That's just one of those. Whenever you watch combat sports, there's always that one fight where somebody's gonna get knocked the fuck out. You don't know who it is. So for this fight, if I were the judges, I would just go out, get a cup of coffee, go on your BlackBerry, take a cigarette break, and because this fight ain't going past 2 rounds. If it goes past 1 round, I'll be impressed. But I don't see this going to a decision. Now, third fight of the night, King Mo Muhammad Lawal versus Joe Vedipo. Can't pronounce his last name. Don't know much about Vedipo. All I know is that he's 17-8. Looks like another journeyman fighter. Of course, King Mo trying to get back in title contention for the light heavyweight title, and possibly a rematch with Rampage if Rampage ever decides to come back. And of course, I'm going with King Mo on this one. King Mo is my boy. I saw King Mo, back in Strikeforce, former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. you know, he really has been working on his striking game. I mean, he's always been a good wrestler. You know, All American in college, Division II, Division One, made the Olympic team. Of course, didn't medal. But in strike, blah. But in Strike Force, you know, he was good. He was a good light heavyweight champion, and he really has been working on his striking, particularly boxing. He's actually working at the Mayweather Boxing Club with Jeff Mayweather.
Oh, wow.
Yep, Jazzy Jeff Mayweather, the second uncle of Floyd Mayweather, didn't reach the heights of his brother Roger Mayweather, but I think the only big fight he ever had was Oscar De La Hoya's eighth pro fight. So that was just about it. But Jeff Mayweather is more of a trainer, better known as a trainer than a boxer. He's training both MMA fighters and boxers, training not only King Mo, but he's also training Joe Daddy Warren, baddest man on the planet and current bantamweight champion. And he's also training Roy Big Country Nelson, who's currently fighting in the UFC. So for this fight, I'm going to go with King Mo on this one, baby. That's right. And now the co-main event, the rematch for the Bellator Lightweight Championship, Michael Chandler versus Will Brooks. Will Brooks really did shock the world in their first fight, winning it. Michael Chandler, you know, trying to come back, trying to win this belt. This was another fight I cannot make a prediction on. I am not going to pick a winner in this fight. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. You know, this has the makings of being another Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez fight, the first and second fight. You know, there's a lot of potential in this fight. Of course, normally in this situation, the title fight would be the main event, but of course, politics as usual, as Jay-Z would say.
Yes.
So, but it should be a good night of fights. I could see this going 5 rounds, but I wouldn't be that surprised if it ends in a knockout or submission. And of course, the main event, as I've mentioned before, the Huntington Beach bad boy Tito Ortiz versus Stephan Bonnar, 2 UFC Hall of Famers going at it. And this is a fight I really have been looking forward to ever since they announced this. I just remember that night because A, I didn't know that Bonnar was coming out of retirement, and B, because of what he did in there. I know you didn't see this, but you know, when they announced the fight, they were in the cage. You know, they were announcing the fight, and Stephan Bonnar saying, "Oh, he's a scumbag. You know, he's forgetting the people who brought him to the top." And he had a guy in there in the cage, and he had a mask on. And when Bonnar unveils the mask, turns out it's Tito's former training partner, Justin McCulley. Yeah, he was also an MMA fighter, didn't really reach his potential or anything. And, you know, it was very pro wrestling. You know, it was very pro wrestling like, you know, like the mystery guest, you know, opponent or, you know, whatever.
A big reveal.
Yeah,
it's
the big reveal.
Entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, Bonnar really crossed the line when he says, "You know what? Poor Jenna. I don't know how she put up with you for all those years." And by Jenna, he means Jenna Jameson. Tito and Jenna had a relationship. You know, they had twin boys, and of course, there was a falling out, some allegations of abuse and drugs. And of course, I've seen Jenna Jameson since then talking trash about Tito on Couples Therapy on VH1. And let me tell you something. Jenna Jameson, you know, as a porn star, you know, hey, she's great. You know, she made a lot of money in the industry. You know, she's a hot piece of ass. But let me tell you something. After seeing those episodes of Couples Therapy and how she reacted to the guests there and to the producers on that show, she is a downright mean bitch. Okay? She is a bitch, people. You know what I'm saying? Trying to bring my boy Tito down. I ain't having that. So anyways, you know, after Bonnar says that, you know, Tito's like, "Oh, you mentioned my family," you know, and then there was almost a fight. There was a ruckus. They had security, had to pull them apart.
Wow.
Yes. And but that was good. That was good promotion, man. That was good promotion for a fight.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you know that made the that'll make the average person, like even you who may not watch it as much, go.
Right, exactly.
You know what? I'm gonna watch this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can't, I may not have cable, but I'll watch it at a bar, and you can actually. You can watch it at Dave and Buster's near you because they show a lot of Bellator fights at Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's, huh?
Yeah, is there a Dave and Buster's near you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know, if you can't watch it, wait, do you have cable at your house?
No.
Okay, well if you can't watch it at at your house, go to Dave and Buster's, get some hot wings, get some beer, and watch the fight.
Watch the fight.
And you know, Stephan Bonner and Tito Ortiz, they're both great fighters. You know, Bonner, of course, famous from the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. You know, losing to Forrest Griffin, and I mean, Stephan Bonner is one of those fighters where win, lose, or draw, he's always in a great fight. He's never in a boring fight. But against, you know, high-level competitions, you know, like not only against Griffin, but like Keith Jardine or, you know, John Jones and Anderson Silva, he fell short, you know. And, you know, so he's a good fighter, but not a great fighter. Plus, he's never been a world champion. And then you got Tito Ortiz. Of course, you know, world champion, fighting in the UFC when the UFC was still on rubber legs. You know, became a rock star in there along with Chuck Liddell. You know, he's become a legend. And, you know, and I actually had the privilege of meeting Tito Ortiz at the UFC Expo when they came to Boston that one year. Yeah, that was the pay-per-view fight when Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn had their rematch. And on that undercard, it was James Toney, the boxer, trying to get into MMA and fight Randy Couture. And, of course, we all know how that ended. But, you know, I had the privilege of meeting him. You know, the first day of the expo, I went there. I saw him. He was the first autograph I got.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he actually came there the second day when he was up there on the panel talking with Shaquille O'Neal when Shaq was playing for the Celtics. Oh. Yeah, he had just come to Boston to play for the Celtics.
No way.
So, oh yeah. And, you know, it was it's great to meet your heroes. It's always great to meet your heroes, man. Mm-hmm. And, but getting back to this fight, I got Tito Ortiz winning this. I hope Tito beats the fucking shit out of Bonner. You know, Bonner's all talking all that crap and stuff. I mean, his nickname is the American Psycho, but let me tell you something. This Psycho, he's pissed off the wrong motherfucker. He is, yeah. This is the, you know, it's like, remember those promos for the first Machete movie? They said they picked the wrong Mexican to fuck with.
Yes.
Yes. Well, Tito is half Mexican. He's half Mexican and he's half white. Right. But still, he picked the wrong Mexican to fuck with. And Tito Ortiz, he is going to smash Bonner. I got Tito winning this, and I'm going to pick round one, although I will be a little surprised if it goes all 5 rounds. I'll be surprised if it goes 3 rounds, actually. You know, but that's the way it's going down. Bellator 131 tonight, 9 o'clock on Spike TV. Live at the Valley View Casino Center in San Diego, California. Yep, San Diego. That is actually the home of Katy Perry. Katy Perry is from San Diego.
Huh, that's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
had a lot of friends from over there, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to my old state.
That's right. So if, like I said, if you can't watch it on TV, go to your local Dave and Buster's, get some beer, some wings, get drunk, and watch the fights. But please, no drinking and driving, folks. We don't want anybody dying. Coming home after watching, going, oh man, that fight was good. Oh shit! Oh yeah, yeah. So now we're gonna get to our fighter of the day, and of course last week I talked about Roberto Duran, Manos de Piedra, Hands of Stone. This week I'm talking about another fighter from the Fab 4 rivalry, and that one is actually a native here in Beantown. Well, actually he was born in New Jersey, but then grew up here in Brockton, Massachusetts, and we kind of adopted him. You know, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, middleweight boxing champion of all time. Of course, I'm talking about the marvelous one, Marvellous Marvin Hagler. Yes, Marvellous Marvin Hagler, folks. And, you know, Marvin Hagler, of course, from New Jersey, as I said before, grew up in, then later moved to Brockton, Massachusetts, became a fighter. And, you know, the thing about Marvin Hagler is that, you know, he had a hard time, you know, rising through the ranks. You know, there were some fights that he should have, that he thought he won, that he lost. You know, he had a hard time getting, he actually had a hard time getting fights. He was actually working construction for the Petrocellis, who later became his managers. And, you know, it really wasn't until, in fact, in his first, looking at his career record right now, he had a draw against Vito Antuofermo. You know, he's Italian, and you know, he had, you know, for the WBC, WBA, and the Ring Magazine middleweight title. In fact, at that time, he was like 47. Yeah, he was like 47 and 47 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws at that time, and wouldn't get another title shot until in Wembley Arena in London. He beat Alan Mintor, 3rd round TKO. But the thing about that fight was, after the fight, you know, fans were throwing beer bottles and stuff at him, and so him and his corner, they had to leave. Right, they had to leave the ring. They couldn't celebrate in the ring like they wanted to. And but he really did make a. But as he went on, he kept winning fights. You know, kept winning. You know, lots of bouts, and later becoming, you know, undisputed champion. He fought Roberto Duran, beat him by unanimous decision in that fight. And then, of course, there was the famous fight with Thomas Hearns, the War. And in that fight, that won Ring Magazine Fight of the Year 1985, and it won Round of the Year too, because in the first round, you know, they just went out swinging. There was this bam, 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 yeah, yeah. I mean, there was like, I mean, you could see the sweat coming out of the TV. I mean, those guys were. Oh yeah, they were sweating like Patrick Ewing in the 4th quarter. You know, if you were a basketball fan, you ever see Patrick Ewing sweat? Woo, man! And then you know, Hagler eventually knocked him out in the 3rd round, and then of course he beats John the Beast Mugabe in the you know, knocked him out in the 11th round, and of course, as we all know, he lost the. You know, he lost that fight to Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard came out of retirement in 1987. They were actually supposed to. They actually wanted to fight each other like early when Ray was, you know, during Ray's career. You know, after, you know, the fights with Duran and Hearns, but then Ray had suffered a detached retina. You know, and you know, of course, after that he got repaired, and the doctor told him he could fight, but he was convinced by his wife not to fight. He came back in '84. He had one fight with Kevin Howard. He got knocked down, but then later came back and won the fight. And then he retired because he felt embarrassed. And of course, I think about 2.5 years later, he comes out of retirement to fight Marvellous Marvin Hagler. And let me tell you something. That was one of the greatest comebacks ever. You know, Sugar Ray really did outbox Marvin Hagler. I mean, his foot speed, his quickness, and the thing about because like Hagler, he had the middleweight title. He had it for 6 years and 7 months, and that's like the second longest lasting reign as middleweight champion, you know, behind only Tony Zale. And the thing is about Marvin Hagler and his fights was that you know, people tried to engage Hagler, you know, and Hagler was a knockout artist. You know, he knocked guys out. In fact, looking at his record now, rarely ever gone 15 or 12 rounds. I mean, he barely ever went to a decision in his fights. But the guys they would engage him. Ray didn't do that. Ray worked to a style that was more effective. Boxing, moving, not trying to slug with Hagler. It's like that. It's like that saying, "Never fight a street fighter's fight." And he didn't. And Ray won the fight, and of course, Hagler after that fight, he retired. He did some movies. He did some independent films. He does boxing commentary for British television. He does make appearances every now and then. But also after that fight, that really affected his relationship with Sugar Ray Leonard, because him and Ray were like the best of friends. And then after that fight, Marvin just became such a sore loser, saying, "Oh, he didn't beat me. He didn't win that fight. I won. All he did was run." And I mean, of course, nowadays they're very cordial to each other. They're very cordial. They like, when they see each other in appearances, but that relationship is there's no relationship there. I mean, Marvin has a relationship with like Duran. He has a relationship with Hearns, and so does Ray. But as far as those two, there really is no relationship. And at first, for the longest time, I was like, Marvin Hagler really needs to get over it. He lost. He's become like a bitter old crow. But then I thought about like last year. Well, this past year there was I don't know if you heard, but Hank Aaron made a speech about being being ridiculed. The struggle he went through to break Babe Ruth's record, and the racism and stuff. And and Mike Francesa talked about it. Mike said, "Listen, if Hank Aaron wants to be, at this point, if Hank Aaron wants to be bitter for the rest of his life, let him." And that's how I feel about Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler, I mean, he's a bitter old crow, but at this point of his life, if he wants to be bitter, let him. I mean, just let him. I mean, he was a great fighter. He may not have gotten the recognition that he got when he was fighting, because, still somewhat in the shadows of Sugar Ray Leonard. In fact, he didn't get many, he got the endorsements and stuff that came, after the fights with Duran and Tommy Hearns, So, but if he wants to be bitter for the rest of his life, I say we just let him, just let him be bitter. But it doesn't take away from the fact that he's still one of the best fighters to come out of Boston, along with, Tony DeMarco and Rocky Marciano, and later on Irish Mickey Ward. That's right. And hey, listen, you want a beer, man?
I was about to say, yeah. Let's crack open.
Let's crack open a beer here. These are Cranberritas, Bud Light Lime Cranberritas. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, tipping one back on the show like we do.
Oh yeah, man, that's how we do it, man. Drink beer and talk about fighting. And these. I mean, of course, I drink these. These Bud Light Lime margaritas. I not only drink them during fights, but I drink them during football. Of course, I got a football game tomorrow night. The Pats and the Colts. And also I got college basketball too. I like to drink these during college basketball season as well. Especially watching Big East basketball too on Fox Sports 1. Also, a little funny story about Marvin Hagler. His nickname was Marvellous, but the network, ABC, CBS, they didn't want to call him Marvellous. So what Hagler did, he went to court and got his name legally changed to Marvellous Marvin Hagler.
Really?
Yeah. So on his certificate, on his birth certificate, his name is Marvellous Marvin Nathaniel Hagler.
No way.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's a way around it. And that's a very clever way to do it.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, I mean, it's very catchy. I mean, to think how he probably couldn't have caught on without such a catchy name. So I mean, I wonder why they didn't want to do it.
yeah, but yeah, Marvin Hagler. Yeah, guy's name legally changed, to Marvelous. Hey, that's one way to get your nickname.
Right.
Yeah, have it legally changed. And also, one of the Petrocellis, the ones who managed Marvin, yeah, one of the Petronelli brothers. Their daughter was I think she's still a cheerleader for the New England Patriots.
Ah.
Yeah, she was actually on American Idol. She was the one who showed up during the auditions. She had the cheerleader outfit on. Yeah. Yes. It's yeah. What a small world.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's it on Marvellous Marvin Hagler, one of the best fighters during the Fab Four, era. One of the best, if not the best, middleweight champions of all time. Of course, I rank him at number 3, Tony Zale, number 2, and number 1 is Sugar Ray Robinson. Of course, some people will probably disagree with me with that, but well, it's my opinion, and 2, I got 2 words for you: blow me. That's right, blow me. And of course, my birthday just passed, November 12th. November 12th, 1986 was when I was born, and November 12th, 1982, 4 years before I was, 4 years before, yeah, it was 4 years after, 4 years before I was born.
Yeah.
It was the fight between Alexis Arguello and Aaron the Hawk Pryor. Aaron Pryor was a featherweight and junior lightweight and lightweight champion, and oh, sorry, that was Arguello. Arguello was like was a fighter out of Nicaragua. He had won titles at featherweight, junior lightweight, and lightweight, and hoped to win a fight at junior welterweight. And of course, the junior welterweight champion at that time was Aaron the Hawk Pryor, and Aaron Pryor actually was a former sparring partner of Sugar Ray Leonard's and Howard Davis. Yeah, he didn't make the Olympic team, but as an amateur, he knocked out Tommy Hearns. And Aaron Pryor tried to get a fight with Ray, but that never happened. In fact, Butch Lewis, the boxing promoter, he says that Ray moved up in weight to get away from Aaron Pryor. Of course, you never know. You always hear those stories of fighters ducking each other, what have you. But that was the fight. It went down on November 12th, 1982, and that fight took place at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, home of the Miami Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And that was a good fight, man. That fight was amazing. I mean, for 14 rounds, those two just went at it. I mean, Pryor could box, but also liked to fight inside, liked to brawl. Arguello was more of a boxer, and Arguello was hitting Aaron Pryor with his best shots, and Aaron Pryor, all he did was smile. Yeah, that was the thing about Aaron Pryor. Pryor had a good chin. He was known for taking your best shot, smile. He would smile, and then he would kick your ass. And that's what happened. And then finally in the 14th round, Aaron Pryor, got Arguello against the ropes and landed he landed great combinations of punches, and then Arguello slumped down to the canvas. The referee stopped the fight, and but of course as famous as the fight is for that fight, it was more famous for the aftermath, because there was controversy after the fight. The controversy was that there was no drug testing after the fight because they drug test you before and after fights.
Oh.
Yes, and during the fight, Pryor's trainer at the time, what? Panama Lewis. Yeah, Panama Lewis. That was his trainer. He kept saying, he was in the corner with him, and he was telling his handlers, he said, "Give me the bottle. No, give me the bottle. The one I mixed. The one that I mixed." And nobody, and of course they looked at that, and then they were like, "Well, wait a minute. What does he mean? Because you're only allowed to carry water. You're only allowed to carry water after that. You're only allowed to carry water to the ring with you." And that was the mysterious black bottle. And from what I heard is that about what was in it is that it was peppermint schnapps to control diarrhea.
Really?
Yeah, they mixed water with schnapps so that Aaron could control his diarrhea. But others thought it was something else, and because of no drug testing, they thought like, well, he was taking something, and that's why he won, and that's why he took all those shots, and blah blah blah. And of course, that led to their rematch 10 months later, and Pryor knocked out Alexis Arguello in 10 rounds, and that was more of a one-sided fight. He knocked him down like 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so knocked him out in 10 instead of 14, and so there was no drugs, and there was no controversy there. But afterwards, after that fight, man, both those guys kind of went down. They had financial problems. They were both addicted to cocaine. Arguello, of course, eventually, he cleaned himself up, and he later became like the mayor of Nicaragua before he finally passed away. As for Pryor, he was hooked on drugs, and he came back a few times, and he did come back, but he would lose, and eventually he stopped fighting, and still around to this day. He was in matter of fact, he was actually, because he's from Cincinnati, Ohio, and he was actually at Adrian Broner's fight in Cincinnati, Ohio. Adrian Broner is another boxer from Cincinnati. He also fights under Floyd Mayweather's promotion. Yeah, Mayweather Promotions. So 2 good fighters coming out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and still around to this day, a Hall of Famer. Also, Cincinnati, Ohio is the home of Nick Lachey and Carmen Electra, if you can believe that. In fact, they actually went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah, Carmen was like a few years older than Nick. Yeah, think about it. One went on to become a Baywatch babe, and the other became part of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, boy band in the world. Of course, from Boston, I'm loyal to the new kids.
Here's to that.
But other than that, it was a good fight. It was one of the best fights at that of that lower weight division, and really during the golden age of boxing in the 80s, because that's when the little guys took over. The lightweights, the welterweights, junior welterweights, the middleweights. Because at that time, Larry Holmes was heavyweight champion, but he wasn't appreciated, and there wasn't much left in the heavyweight division until Tyson came on. Maybe 3 years later. In fact, he actually won the heavyweight title. He won the heavyweight title 10 days after I was born.
Oh.
Yeah, 10 days after I was born, and that was when he was still with Cuss. Well, it was like a year and a month after Cuss had died, and he was still with Clayton, Jacobs, and he still had Kevin Rooney in his corner, and that was all before he got with Don King. So Another important fact in the history of fighting that relates to my birthday. Also, this is also the 21st anniversary of the birth of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the UFC started on November 12th, November 11th, 1993. You know, I was too young to remember that. I was too busy watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and Batman, and stuff. But another day in fighting history, man.
Apparently, yeah.
Yes, it was. But Arguello and Pryor, one of the best, if not the best fight of the '80s, and you know, worth looking up on YouTube. I highly recommend it.
Then the anniversary, I saw one of my friends plays the and I don't know if you know about the video game of the UFC. They had
the EA Sports one.
Yeah, exactly, and they have not Jet Li, but they have one of the Kung Fu masters.
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, yes, Bruce Lee there on the game, and I think I heard something about they had released a special version for maybe it was the 20th anniversary, but still.
Yeah, well, that was good, man. You know, because Bruce Lee is he really is the father of mixed martial arts. You know, he's the father of mixed martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, study every technique and keep what works, and it's also great that his daughter Shannon is is a big promoter of the UFC. You know, she's always there at fight. She comes to fights, and she always speaks so highly of the UFC and Dana White and and stuff. So it's just it's just amazing. It's just amazing. In fact, Bruce Lee is I consider him one of the best gladiators of all time. And I know people say like, oh, the actor and stuff, but Bruce Lee was everything. He was a philosopher, a martial artist, an actor. He was the man. And it's because of Bruce Lee I got into the martial arts. I got into martial arts movies, and it's because of Bruce Lee there's mixed martial arts. So there. Yeah,
exactly. And who really cares if they have a different career like acting? Those of us that are old enough will always remember that The Rock was The Rock. You smell what The Rock is cooking.
Oh yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And this actually leads to my rant of the day.
Okay, great.
And this rant is about MMA and pro wrestling. I go on YouTube. I go on YouTube and I see the videos and I hear the discussions and stuff. What is better, MMA or pro wrestling? And I've actually had some talks with this with my friend Kevin and his boyfriend Michael. His boyfriend Michael loves pro wrestling, of course, for different reasons. But here's the thing. I watched pro wrestling back in the Attitude Era, back when it was beginning, 1997. And I watched it for a long time, and then during towards the end of my junior year, going into my senior year of high school, I was watching UFC more, and eventually I just got tired of pro wrestling. I got tired of some of the storylines. I mean, there were times when I could see a finish coming a mile away. So I stopped watching that. I mean, I did watch a little bit of classic wrestling, and then I just stopped, period. But, over the, I think, year and a half now, about a year now, I've been getting back into watching pro wrestling because a friend of mine's, Prema, who watches pro wrestling, and sometimes she watches MMA too. I mean, she'll watch it if, to watch Bobby Lashley fight in Bellator. Yeah, and then she was actually there, with me the night that Cain Velasquez knocked out Brock Lesnar. So, yeah, she's been to a few MMA fights with me. Now, of course, we all know that pro wrestling is choreographed and MMA is real. I don't like to say fake with wrestling because wrestlers do get hurt, people. The only thing fake about pro wrestling is, the results of the match and the people interfering.
Right.
Other than that, they do get hurt out there, and I would know from watching wrestling documentaries on wrestling schools and watching Tough Enough. So, there's nothing fake about wrestling. They do get hurt. However, as for which one is better to watch, I have to go with mixed martial arts. Because the thing is with pro wrestling, in pro wrestling today, there is, it's like, well, for starters with WWE, it's the PG era thing, you know, guarding more towards little kids, and there's not much better storylines. You can't even have blood on there. You can't have blood on there. I mean, what's the point of having a cage match or elimination chamber or hardcore, any kind of gimmick match, without there being any blood? And also, the thing is about the WWE product is that for the most part it's 20 minutes of talking. They'll have a thing where they have like 20 minutes of talking, and it's okay to have a little talking on there to promote the match and to build up a match or whatever, but at the end of the day, the wrestling fans want to see wrestling. It's like Shane Douglas said about Monday Night Football. If you tune in to Monday Night Football, you want to watch a football game.
Right.
Same thing with me. I don't, when I want to watch football, I don't want to hear about Bill Belichick sleeping with one of the players' wives, or the general manager of the San Francisco 49ers wants to get rid of the quarterback of the team because he looked at him the wrong way. It's like, for God's sakes, I want to watch football. That's what I want to do. And that's what wrestling fans want. They want to watch wrestling. The name on the marquee is wrestling, and people say like, well, it's more than just wrestling. It's entertainment, and I don't mind the entertainment thing as much, because you can't have just two guys in tights just wrestling all the time, because you have to have a little bit of a filler. But when it's to the point where it's like there's more talking than action, then that's a problem. Something's broken the product. I mean, in fact, for the first Rock and John Cena match at WrestleMania, it didn't even sell out after promoting it for a year.
Oh, man.
Yeah, trust me. And WrestleMania is like, it's like the Super Bowl of the WWE.
Right.
They couldn't sell out WrestleMania. When you can't sell out WrestleMania, that's when something is wrong. TNA wrestling, well, with TNA, and I've said this with a friend of mine who's also still a pro wrestling fan, diehard, is that with TNA wrestling on Spike, it's 3 steps forwards and 2 steps back with these guys. They do have better storylines, and the matches are more competitive, but the thing is, they're still not giving some guys a big enough push. Some of the newer talent, they're not getting a big enough push. They're relying more on the old guys, the old veterans, and nothing against those guys, the Dudleys and, the Kurt Angles and all those guys, but their time is past now. It's time for the new generation of wrestlers to come up and get their shots, And also the other thing with TNA is that I was watching Impact this past week, and they were supposed to have the tag team, the Wolves, go up against the Hardys. After the Hardys won the tag team tournament to become #1 contenders, but that didn't happen because James Storm's staple came in and injured one of the Wolves, and he cashed in his Feast or Fire briefcase and won the tag team titles with Abyss. And I understand, because they're building the staple and stuff. A staple is like kind of like the NWO or the Four Horsemen. Yeah. But but I felt like they could have done it in a better way. Because that night I wanted to see the Wolves and the Hardys, 2 of the best tag teams in TNA, if not pro wrestling, go at each other. And yet, I couldn't get that. The fans couldn't get that because of, the switch in the plans. And and instead we got Bobby Roode. Instead for the main event we had Austin Aries and Bobby Lashley, which I don't mind, but still, I just wanted to see, I wanted to see the Hardys and the Wolves, and pro wrestling, that's the thing with pro wrestling. It's like, the whole, with storylines, and, it's like Paul Heyman once said, writing for wrestling is easy. It's just that the writers, no matter what organization, it's like they try to complicate it. It's like wrestling is like playing high High Plains Drifters noon, with Clint Eastwood. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
here are the bad guys, here are the good guys. The bad guys are in, build them up. In comes the good guy. What if they have the match?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, too many times it's always, we got to break new ground. We got to add a little more reality. It's like, why? I mean, I don't mind a little reality, but for the most part, why not just make it more simple? Just make here's a good guy, here's a bad guy. They're both interesting. Why not? Why don't they have a match?
Mm-hmm. Do you believe the like sort of I think of the South Park episode where they open like the wrestling match in their backyard and stuff. Do you think it's kind of like that it's more of a soap opera type of thing?
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I mean, and plus the thing is, people, there's always also this debate of whether pro wrestlers would make good actors. I mean, because pro wrestlers like The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Triple H,
right.
Jesse Ventura, even Roddy Piper have made a transition to acting. But it's not but it's not that easy, because because when you're wrestling, you have to be this larger than life, figure, to the crowd and to the fans watching on pay-per-view. But when you're trying to play a different character in a movie or a TV, you have to kind of tone that down.
Right, yeah.
And, it doesn't mean, pro wrestling is not an acting school. It's not like you can go from pro wrestling acting and all of a sudden go to, try to win an Oscar. That's unrealistic. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I do like pro wrestling. I do treat it with some respect. In fact, people always say, like, what's hard to do, pro wrestling or MMA? And the reality is, I think I know, pro wrestling is much harder to do. Because, when you go in there in training, you're learning how to run the ropes, how to fall, take a bump. And, you get whiplashes running the ropes. You get rope burns and, you get stingers. That trampoline is no trampoline, folks. Mm-hmm. I mean that ring out there, that is no trampoline. Mm-hmm. It's not a trampoline. And, you got to land on a soft spot in your body. And plus the thing is, wrestlers, out of 365 days on the road, out of 365 days of the year, they're on the road for 350 of those days.
Huh.
Little to no time off.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah, that means it's hard when you're a parent too, because you're missing, you're missing first steps, you're missing, report cards, you're missing birthdays, you're missing little league baseball games. Mm-hmm. You're missing. Sometimes you got to work on holidays. You're missing Christmas.
Right.
Exactly, being on that road, and the thing is, it's like after the thing with wrestling is this: you show up to the arena, you do your job, you go back to the hotel, you pack up and you leave and you go to the next town. There's no because if you're not working, it's not like you work a pay-per-view or you work TV and then you have time off. No, it's if you're not working TV or pay-per-view, you have to do a house show, which is a live event, non-televised, and I've actually gone to 2 WWE house shows in my life, and that's like no time to hardly any time to to rest, and plus these guys got to go into the gym, even after a hard night, they have to go to the gym and try to work out, and it does take a toll on your body, and even with injuries, you have to try to work through those injuries because especially if you're in the middle of a push where they're going to give you a belt, if you're working an angle, you have to try and stay on the road as much as possible because the thing in pro wrestling is if you don't work, you don't eat. It's like, okay, if you go okay, I'm not going to work that Monday Night Raw, I'm not going to do Raw. Well, if you don't work that Raw, you're not going to get paid. They're not going to pay you, and that's the thing. You have to get used to being out in the road, and it's a tough thing for those guys to do. And I mean, yes, it's scripted and predetermined and stuff like that, but it is athletic. It's just as hard hitting it's just as smash mouth as football, and also it's learning. But you also have to learn how to take those shots. You have to learn how to take a chair shot and stuff. One of the things you do is you don't do a chair shot in the back of the head, or you hit it on the crown of the head. And also, wrestlers nowadays, they're putting their hands up when they get a chair shot. Yeah, because of the studies of concussions and what have you. So now it's like the wrestlers have to protect themselves and try to protect themselves and stuff. Now, as far as, pro wrestling and MMA, there is a correlation between it because, if you look at the old ECW with Taz, Taz wrestled like an old UFC fighter. They actually introduced the tap out to pro wrestling. Back then in pro wrestling, where someone was in a submission hold, the wrestler would be like, yes, and then the referee would go, oh, he said he quit. But nowadays in pro wrestling, they do the tap out, just like in MMA. So that was genius of them. And of course, Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn worked in WWE after they left the UFC in the early days, and and of course nowadays the stuff that MMA uses to promote a fight and stuff they get from pro wrestling. Like I said about the Tito Ortiz thing.
Exactly.
The unmasking. And stuff. That's a smart move. That's a smart way to promote a fight. And with pro wrestling, they are sort of borrowing a little bit from MMA. I've seen them sometimes do videos where they're, where they show them training for that big main event fight, like last year's WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan and Triple H. They showed Triple H working out. He's doing more cardio work, and they saw him working out with two boxing trainers from Gleason's gym in his house, and he's throwing punches and stuff like that. That's something I would like to see more training montage videos in pro wrestling for that, especially if it's a world title fight and that big main event.
Right.
It makes people want to see it more.
Right.
And the thing about that's sort of the way of how to sell a fight. And whether it's boxing, kickboxing, or MMA, it's like, who are these two guys that are fighting? Why are they fighting? And why should I care? I got that from Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman said that too.
I was about to say that's what the more average of us that don't watch as often as you would say.
Yeah, you just have to. If you can answer at least 2 out of 3 of those questions,
right?
You'll sell a fight or a pay-per-view. But that's what pro wrestling could borrow from MMA, is how to better promote a fight, how to get people to watch, and also to make it more athletic and less theater. Make it more of an athletic, competitive competition out there, instead of relying more on the storylines and the more of a soap opera-ish thing. You know what I'm saying? But that's what they need to do. And also, it also helps that there are some pro wrestlers that train in mixed martial arts and bring that mixed martial arts element into pro wrestling. You got Samoa Joe over in TNA. I mean, I saw Samoa Joe back in high school. I remember when he first came into TNA, and I was like, seeing him wrestle, I was like, wow, this guy, he wrestles like a UFC type of fighter. And later, I was amazed with Samoa Joe. And later, I found out he was. He has a background in judo. He's a black belt in judo. He's done Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he also does Muay Thai. Or Daniel Bryan right now in WWE. He has a bit. He's never fought in MMA or anything, but he trained over at Randy Couture's gym in Vegas and learned submissions and stuff like that. Actually learned the label lock. That's where he learned the label, or now they call it the yes lock. So, and even now with Brock Lesnar, Brock Lesnar went. Of course, Brock Lesnar, before he first came into the WWE, he was an amateur wrestler. Wrestled at the University of Minnesota. That's the same university that Kevin McHale of the Celtics play basketball at.
Ah, sweet.
Yeah. And, Brock Lesnar, he was a amateur wrestling champion, 2000 heavyweight champion. Came into WWE, he had that background in amateur wrestling that made him a legit wrestler. And then, of course, he leaves. He goes and tries to make it to the NFL. Didn't work. And then he goes into to MMA. Had the quickest rise to the UFC. Became heavyweight champion, of course, later to diverticulitis, affecting his stomach. He couldn't fight, couldn't keep on fighting. But then when he comes back into the WWE, which right now he's the current WWE champion, it brought a little bit more legitimacy back into it, because it's like, here's a guy who's in the UFC, smashing people, and that's what makes it interesting. Same thing right now with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is doing both MMA and pro wrestling at the same time, which is hard, but it brings more legitimacy to him, into his character, And the thing is, I look at these guys, and plus it makes, some of the pro wrestlers more badass because some of these wrestlers have never been in a fight in their life. Some of these guys can't even fight their way out of a paper bag. People. No disrespect to guys like Triple H or John Cena, but guys would probably look at them and be like, "Oh man, I want to fight these guys. Yeah, I want to fight them." But they look at a Samoa Joe, a Daniel Bryan, or even Kurt Angle, who is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. They look at those guys and they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. I don't want to fuck with those guys. I don't want to fuck with them."
Right.
They'll kill me. They got their martial arts backgrounds and stuff like that. They'll kill me.
Right.
So, that's the thing. What is better to watch? I gotta go with MMA, although I still like pro wrestling, but MMA because it's more legit. As far as what's more entertaining, I would say both. And I think pro wrestling and MMA, can coexist. I do think they can coexist. It's, it's not a shame to like both. You don't have to like one or the other. Because they both have that. There's two different worlds, but there's a lot that goes into both of them. And also Vince McMahon, head of the WWE, and Dana White. They have that same mentality when it comes to running a business. You gotta spend money to make money, as they would say as they say now. And they're both two of the best businessmen in the world. They're the kind of businessmen that can take, let's say, I don't know, let's say your beard there. They can take your beard and make it a star.
Sweet.
Exactly. So that'll end it for the podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna do one more podcast next week, and then the Saturday after Thanksgiving, we're gonna be off.
Yeah.
Yep, and so look us up on YouTube, and also comment, watch us, tell us what you think, man. Tell us what you think. Hey, even tell us that we suck. Go ahead. Free speech is, we allow free speech.
Yeah, free speech is king around here.
Yes. And with that, from Beantown to your town, this is Matthew Burris saying, peace out.
Peace out.